Day, you talked to yourself, maybe out loud, maybe just under your breath, maybe only in your head, a running commentary nobody else could hear, narrating what you were doing, coaching yourself through something difficult, or replaying a conversation that ended hours ago. And if someone caught you doing it, there's a reasonable chance you felt slightly embarrassed, like it was a sign of something, like people who talk to themselves are a little unhinged. Here's what psychology actually says. Talking to yourself is not a quirk. It is not a red flag. It is one of the most sophisticated cognitive tools the human brain has ever developed, and the people who do it most are not the ones you should be worried about. Psychologists call it self-directed speech, and researchers have been studying it seriously for decades, not as a symptom of something wrong, but as a window into how high-functioning minds actually operate. Here is what they found. When you talk to yourself, you are not being strange. You are doing something very specific. You are using language to organize thought in real time. You are turning something vague and internal into something structured and external, even if that external version never leaves your own head. Think about the last time you talked yourself through something hard, a difficult decision, a task you kept putting off, a moment where you said, out loud or silently, "Okay, let's just do this." That was not weakness. That was your brain using one of its most powerful regulatory tools. In 1986, psychologist Lev Vygotsky first identified what he called private speech, the internal verbal monologue children use to guide themselves through tasks. He noticed something important. Children who talked to themselves while solving problems performed significantly better than those who stayed silent. And that pattern does not disappear in adulthood. It goes inward. What was once said out loud becomes the internal voice, but the function stays exactly the same. A 2012 study published in the Quarterly Journal of Experimental Psychology asked participants to search for an object. One group searched in silence, the other repeated the name of the object out loud as they looked. The group talking to themselves found it faster, not because they were smarter, because speaking the word activated a broader network of visual and conceptual associations in the brain, making the target easier to locate. Your brain processes language differently when it is heard, even when it is your own voice doing the speaking. But there's a second layer to this that most people overlook, and it has to do with emotional regulation. When something goes wrong, the people who tend to recover fastest are not the ones who suppress what they are feeling. They're the ones who name it, out loud, in their heads, sometimes even to an empty room. There's something about hearing a feeling stated, "I am anxious about this," "I am disappointed," "I am not sure what to do," that creates a small but measurable distance between the person and the emotion. Psychologists call this affect labeling, and brain imaging studies show that the moment you name an emotion with language, the activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, measurably decreases. You are not just describing what you feel, you are physically reducing its intensity. The voice in your head is not making things worse. In many cases, it's the thing keeping you functional. So think about what this means for every time you caught yourself talking to yourself and wondered if something was off. Every time you muttered through a decision, coached yourself in the mirror before something important, or processed a difficult day by narrating it quietly on the drive home. That was not instability. That was your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, reaching for language because language is how humans make sense of the world. The research is consistent on this. People who engage in regular self-directed speech tend to show higher levels of emotional intelligence, stronger performance under pressure, and a greater capacity to self-regulate in difficult situations, not lower, higher. You were not broken when you talked to yourself. You were thinking. There's one important distinction worth making, though. Not all self-talk is the same. There's a difference between the voice that coaches you and the voice that attacks you, between the internal monologue that says, "Let me think through this carefully," and the one that says, "You always get this wrong." Both are self-talk, but they do very different things to the brain. The coaching voice, what researchers call instructional self-talk, activates focus and problem-solving. The critical voice, when it becomes chronic, is linked to anxiety, rumination, and depression. So the question is not whether you talk to yourself. You do. Everyone does. The question is what that voice has been trained to say, and whether it sounds more like a coach or more like a critic. Because that distinction, small as it sounds, shapes everything. The decisions you make, the risks you take, the way you recover when things go wrong. The voice in your head is not background noise. It is one of the most active forces in your life. It's worth paying attention to what it has been saying. If this resonated with you, subscribe.